You are a scientist. You have made a discovery that saves hundreds of millions of lives around the world. A breakthrough that will change the history of humanity forever. Now imagine that during this discovery, someone who stood by your side and provided you with financial resources takes all the credit for himself, wins the Nobel Prize for it, and the scandal that almost erased him from history. This is the true story of Frederick Banting, the man who discovered insulin.
The world had no cure for diabetes before 1921. Doctors were helpless. People were desperate. A diagnosis of diabetes essentially meant a death sentence. The body could not process sugar properly. They knew why it happened. There was a problem with the pancreas, but they had absolutely no idea how to stop it. Children diagnosed with diabetes were put on starvation diets. They ate almost nothing, just enough to survive a few extra months. Hospital wards were filled with skeletal children, too weak to move, waiting to die. It was one of the most heartbreaking sights in the history of medicine. Thank God we don't live in those times. Truly, the helplessness, seeing someone suffer and being unable to do anything, must have been an incredibly painful thing to witness.
Frederick Banting was not a famous scientist. He was a doctor living in a small town in Canada with a modest medical practice, limited financial means, and almost no research experience. He had an idea, a hunch really, that the key to diabetes lay in a specific secretion from the pancreas, something nobody had successfully isolated before. He took his idea to John Macleod, the most powerful figure in Canadian medical research, head of the University of Toronto's physiology department. Macleod was skeptical, very skeptical, but he gave Banting a small lab, 10 dogs to experiment on, and an assistant named Charles Best. Then he left for his summer vacation in Scotland.
So Banting and Best worked alone all summer in a hot, poorly equipped laboratory with barely any funding. There was no guarantee it would work. They had no backup plan. But slowly, painstakingly, they made progress. They isolated a substance from the pancreas. They called it islatan, which would later be renamed insulin. And they had one question: would it work on a living diabetic patient?
January 11th, 1922, Toronto General Hospital. A 14-year-old boy named Leonard Thompson lay dying in a hospital bed. He weighed 65 pounds. He was too weak to lift his head. His family had been told to say their goodbyes. Banting and Best injected him with insulin. Within 24 hours, Leonard's blood sugar levels dropped dramatically. Within days, he was sitting up in bed. Within weeks, he was walking. Think about it. Someone you deeply care about is face to face with death. You've watched so many people around you lose their lives to the same disease. And then suddenly, thanks to a newly discovered medicine, within 24 hours they come back to themselves and get back on their feet. That feeling must be the most beautiful gift anyone could ever give you in this world. At least, that's what I think. Don't you agree? Leonard Thompson lived for another 13 years, and he died not from diabetes, but from an unrelated cause. It was one of the most miraculous moments in the history of medicine. And then John Macleod came back from Scotland. He saw what had been achieved, and almost immediately, he inserted himself into the center of the story. He began presenting the research as a collaborative team effort, with himself as the lead figure. He reorganized the lab. He added his own name prominently to the publications. He gave the lectures. He took the meetings with journalists. Banting was furious. He described Macleod as a man who had contributed nothing to the discovery, and then claimed everything from it.
In 1923, just 1 year after the first successful insulin injection, the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine was awarded to John Macleod and Frederick Banting. Banting's reaction was explosive. He publicly announced that he refused to accept sharing the prize with Macleod. He said the real credit should go to Charles Best, his actual partner in the lab all summer. In protest, he immediately split his prize money in two and gave half to Best. Macleod, not to be outdone, split his prize money with James Collip, the biochemist who had helped purify the insulin. It became the most publicly bitter Nobel Prize acceptance in history. Today, insulin is used by over 500 million people worldwide. It is produced in massive quantities, refined to extraordinary precision, and delivered through devices that would have seemed like science fiction in 1922. Frederick Banting never made a single penny from insulin. He and Best deliberately chose not to patent their discovery, selling the rights to the University of Toronto for just $1 each. Their reasoning? Insulin belonged to the world.
Banting said, "Insulin does not belong to me. It belongs to the world." He was knighted, he was celebrated, but he never forgot and never forgave what happened with that Nobel Prize. Frederick Banting died in a plane crash in 1941 at the age of 49 on his way to deliver medical research to Britain during World War II. He saved hundreds of millions of lives, and he gave it all away for $1. In your opinion, who should the Nobel Prize have been given to? Banting or Macleod? Or to both of them? Write it in the comments. If history is this strange, imagine what else we have for you. Subscribe to enHistory